Hi guys, welcome back to Scott Family Homestead. Today we are going to clean up a whole bunch of our eggs and package them up for customers. I thought while we did this, we could do a little overview of egg carton labels, like when you go to the store and you're looking to buy eggs, what all those different labels mean. Some of those labels are deceiving and some of them actually mean nothing at all. So let's get into it and start discussing what cage-free, free-range, natural, all of the different labels that you will see on those cartons mean. While we discuss this, I'm going to be packaging up my own eggs. So what I do is I've got these egg cartons with a flat top on them, and that way I can stamp them. So we had a stamp made from an Etsy shop that just says farm fresh eggs, hand collected daily, and then it has Scott Family Homestead on it and a little chicken. And so we stamp all of our egg cartons by hand with this. It comes with a big felt pad, and then we actually use a 2x4. This is cut down to 3 inches wide, so we took about a ½ inch off. This sits underneath the flat part of the egg carton so that when you're pressing, it has something to press against. So this is my little setup for packaging eggs. I'm going to go ahead and stamp a bunch of these. Clean up eggs. These are eggs just from the last couple of days, and so we are cranking out the eggs right now. We've got a lot to provide for our customers, and I'm really excited to get these stocked into the egg cooler. While I do this, let's talk about the egg industry as a whole. The average American is eating 280 eggs every year. So if you had a chicken that could lay 280 eggs a year, that's a pretty good production. So you have to consider there's about 1 chicken per person in the United States in order to meet that demand. And now, I don't know if that includes waste or things that are not getting eaten, things that expire. What are the stores getting rid of? I don't know. Now, the egg industry definitely has a reputation for crowded barns, antibiotic use, and a lot of other unsavory practices. But the thing is, we have to look at why these things exist and the fact that most people aren't raising their own chickens these days. So the large industry of eggs has a reputation because of crowded barns. Now, this comes about because food demand. Systems were made and put into place, and when it comes to your pork, beef, poultry, eggs, all of it, it's the way that it is because of how many people we need to feed. So unless everybody's raising their own food or finding food from a local farmer, these conditions are going to exist. Now, if you're a family raising your own chickens, if you're a family of 4, having 4 to 6 chickens could take care of all of your egg needs for the year. You would have to have some sort of preservation method for the times of year when your chickens are molting or not laying due to daylight hours. So you can do water glassing, freezing, freeze drying, or even dehydrating of eggs to make up for that. And you could have enough eggs for your family for the year. However, most families aren't doing that. Now, while I would love for everybody to have their own backyard flock, it's not feasible for everybody. So let's talk about where you can get eggs and really feel good about what you're buying and how those chickens are kept. So you've probably seen pictures or video of a crowded egg barn full of white chickens. Now you see more that are brown chickens. Just really packed in there, either in cages or outside of cages, but they're in this really crowded area, crowded conditions, which leads to a whole lot of problems that have to be navigated. Let's start by discussing pricing of eggs right now. So I went on Walmart.com, I looked up my local prices for eggs, and a standard dozen eggs with no special labels of any sort is running about $2.50 to $3, depending on if you're going with a Great Value brand or Eggland's Best, or your standard caged chickens. Eggs are sitting around $3 a dozen. Small disclaimer, this is April 2024, so if you are watching this video significantly after and the economy or egg prices have changed significantly, this might not be completely relevant, so I'm just giving you a background of what regular eggs are costing today and going from there. Depending on when you're watching this, that may change, okay? Disclaimer. Let's talk about our first really common egg label that people usually feel pretty good about that maybe is a little bit misleading, and that is cage-free eggs. Cage-free chickens can peck each other. So that opens up a whole nother world of issue in which most of these cage-free eggs are having their beaks removed so that they can't attack each other. If you've ever had backyard chickens, you know that if they have, like, especially a blood spot, or even if they get like a little bit of poop on their feathers, I find this especially with those white leghorns because you can see every imperfection on their feathers. The other chickens will start to peck at it, and then if it does draw blood, or if they're bleeding, then they really peck at it, and they will kill other chickens. That's not to say that I know the mortality rates and how it's different between caged and cage-free. I would have to deep dive to really get into that. But you will see debeaking happening in the cage-free system. It's also important to note that they're only getting about 1.5 feet of space each, sometimes less. It's not significantly different space-wise as them being in cages. It just means they have access to each other. It does not mean they have access to space where they can preen and care for themselves. It is still a crowded, condensed space. With all of these labels, you have to decide what you are comfortable with and what you are willing to pay for. I just want you to know how it actually shakes out, because with marketing, it's not always as it seems. Cage-free eggs at Walmart right now are $3.50 a dozen, pretty much across the different brands. So you are paying an extra 50 cents to $1 per dozen to have the cage-free label. So whether it's worth it to you or not is something that you have to decide. I'm just giving you the information. The next label that you're probably familiar with is free range. Now that sounds quite a bit better because they have access to outdoors. They're required to have access to outdoors if they have the free range label. However, that outdoor space could be a concrete slab, and they don't have to have access to it all day long. Even with a humane certified free range label, it has more to do with how many hours a day that they have to have access to outside, not how long they have to be outside. So if they have a little door off the side of these large barns with a concrete slab out there that the chickens can sometimes get to, they can put free range on that label. This does not mean that they have access to different nutrients or bugs, or that they are less crowded in their barns. It just means that they have an outdoor space. The free range eggs that I found online today at Walmart are $4 a dozen. So above your regular eggs, you're paying about $1 to $1.50 more for that outdoor space. Another label that is pretty important to people is organic labeling. Now, organic simply has to do with what they are fed. They are fed organic, non-GMO feed, and it doesn't really have to do a whole lot with their living conditions. It can still be very crowded. However, they can't use cages, so they're at least cage-free, but they can also be debeaked. Organic eggs right now are going to end up being about $5 a dozen, and you have to have certification for it. You can't say it's organic just because you're feeding them organic feed. You have to actually be certified for it. If you're buying from a backyard producer like us and they feed organic, you will often see them advertising as eggs from hens fed organic feed instead of saying organic eggs, just because of the requirements to actually label something as organic. The label that really makes a difference in how chickens are raised is pasture raised. Pasture raised means they can perform their natural behaviors. They can clean themselves, they can look for food, they can have access to bugs and grasses and a significant amount of space in comparison to the conventionally raised chickens. You're going to see a difference not only in chicken behaviors and chicken treatment, but also in the actual nutrition of the egg. So this is something where you're paying significantly more than your standard egg, nearly double in most cases, sometimes more than double, but you're getting a different nutrient-dense egg, and you can feel quite a bit better about the space that these chickens are given. Now, pasture-raised eggs are harder to find. There's Vital Farms, they run about $6 a dozen, or you can find your local farmer who raises on pasture, and generally you're going to get it for much cheaper than the grocery store. We do not feed organic, but we are pasture raised, and we sell our eggs for $4 a dozen. Right now in the market report, it's averaging about $6 for direct-to-consumer pasture-raised eggs. Your regular eggs, your cage-free eggs, your free-range eggs, and your organic eggs, they are all allowed to be debeaked. So none of those labels have anything to do with whether or not they remove the end of their beak. The other thing that they're allowed, unless they have specific labeling against it, they're allowed forced molting. Basically, a chicken molts, they start to lose their feathers and grow in a new coat every fall. And you can force this to go more quickly and get them back to egg laying faster by reducing their feed and withholding feed. And a lot of operations do utilize that, not only to save on feed, but to get them back laying as fast as possible. There are several different humane labels that you can have. There's like American Humane Certified, Humane Certified. From what I could find, it's kind of hard to track down what each one actually requires, whether or not they allow forced molting or if they allow the beak cutting. So if they have a humane label on it or a sticker, you would have to look up that specific certification because there's not just one. You also get into the labels in which they start to say, no hormones added. Well, that's not legal in the United States, so that's just a fluff label. If it says natural, like all eggs are considered natural, so that is just a no meaning label. You can have a label on there that says farm fresh. That's not regulated in any way. Technically, all of our eggs are coming from farms, so you can write farm fresh on it. Now, antibiotic free, you do have to prove that you didn't use antibiotics in your chickens, so that one is legit. They also have to do that on organic labeling. So if you're labeling organic, it will be antibiotic free. What's the best thing you can do if you do not have your own chickens in order to determine exactly what they're eating? Find your local farmer. Not only that, find a farmer where you can ask them what they're feeding their chickens. You can speak one-on-one with a farmer and find out what they're using. For us, you can swing by the farm. You can see the chickens. You can see them out on pasture. And we have collected a beautiful variety of colors. Very fun. That's another thing that's kind of deceiving to people is when companies started using brown eggs instead of white eggs. They just come from a different colored chicken. The white leghorns lay white eggs and brown leghorns lay brown eggs. And so you're not getting a more natural egg of any sort by having a brown egg. Just like having a green egg doesn't mean anything. There's nothing nutritionally different about this. It just comes from a chicken that lays green eggs. These, you can have different blooms and speckles and colors on them depending on each individual chicken. Not only their breed, but just every chicken lays an egg that's slightly different. You're gonna get some really cool stuff if you buy from your local farmers. As you see, we wash our eggs, and I'm not giving them like a hard scrub. I'm just getting any of the dirt and poop off because that's what our customers generally request. But you might find somebody who does unwashed eggs, and those can be kept on your counter. So some people really want to be able to keep their eggs out. We refrigerate our eggs. Once you wash them and remove the bloom, they need to be refrigerated. That's an important part of it. Once that bloom is gone, bacteria can enter into the egg, and that's where refrigeration is important. Another thing to note, when you're buying eggs from the store, they are generally 30 to 45 days old already. And so you'll see the expiration date is about a month out. They last a really long time. But if you're buying from a farmer, they're going to last just as long. But you're not losing out on that 30 to 45 days. For us, we're putting our fresh eggs out there. Try not to put any out in the egg stand that are more than 5 to 7 days old. So you're getting very fresh eggs when you purchase from us. And they're going to be good for a couple of months. So there's no rush to use them. fresh eggs can be more difficult to hard boil. So the reason that store-bought eggs are easier to hard boil is because they're already a month old. So you can either try to buy some older eggs for the purpose of hard boiling from your farmer, or you can try different methods such as steaming, or if you have an Instapot, I find that works the best for hard boiling. I can take day-old eggs and put them in the Instapot, and they will be just as good as the store-bought. If you are a backyard chicken keeper that sells eggs, please give this video a share so that you can get the word out of the differences between your eggs and store-bought. The best thing you can do is buy from a farmer that is open and honest about their practices, and so you know exactly what you're getting. You're supporting small families like ours. So thank you to every single one of you that buys your eggs from your local farm. Makes a really big difference in people's lives. And those of us that are crazy chicken ladies get to collect more and more chickens as we get more and more customers. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We have lots of homesteading tips and tricks that we love to share, things that we have learned over the years. I've been keeping chickens for egg laying for 11 years now. We have had a lot of different experiences, and I would love to share that with you. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask at any time. So we're on Instagram and Facebook, we're on YouTube, also on Pinterest. And so you can find us on any of these platforms, the Scott Family Homestead. We'd love to have you. With that, I have a job to finish with all these eggs. I got a whole other basket over here to get through. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Thank you for liking, commenting, and sharing. Every little bit helps our channel and helps our family, and we appreciate all of you. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.